Madam Reading Clerk.
For substitute HB23, income tax credit modifications, Representative Jeremy Peterson. This bill was heard in Revenue and Taxation with a vote of 8-2.
Representative Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our rooftop solar industry is a great Utah success story. For the past several years, this industry has been growing 200 and 300% year over year. And I'm excited to see this industry grow, as I'm sure you are, with the jobs it has created. However, there is a flip side to this success story, and that story is written in our school education budget. As you're probably aware, in 2002, our state created a $2,000 income tax credit for the consumers of rooftop solar systems that would be placed on their homes for consumer electrical purposes. That tax credit did not do a whole lot for the first years of its creation until recently, with the decrease in the cost of the technology. Consumers have rapidly began to adopt this technology on their homes. In tandem, that has impacted our education budget, and you can see the chart on your desk that we handed out. That impact is growing at a geometric rate. So what this bill does, and this bill has been negotiated with industry and with Utah Clean Air, the bill creates a taper. So we will reduce the $2,000 individual income tax credit by $400 a year for the next 4 years until it tapers out to zero. It is expected that the cost of the technology will actually decrease at the same rate as this tax credit, so consumers should not see a significant impact on the bottom line in trying to determine whether or not to make that purchase. With that, Mr. Speaker, that is the bill.
Thank you. Discussion to the bill. Representative Briscoe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the sponsor of this legislation for listening to the people who had concerns. And this bill was presented. I think he would tell you he's been working on this a couple of years. We saw it in Rev and Tax at the end of the session last year. There were a series of meetings held this summer and this fall. I'm going to tell you why I'm going to be voting against the bill. What advocates have said is, we've got solar off to a great start. They don't need any more subsidies. That might be true. My position is, let's take subsidies off everything. Let's take the subsidies off oil. Let's take the subsidies off nuclear. Let's take the subsidies off coal. Let's take the subsidies off natural gas. Worldwide, not U.S., estimated a year ago, subsidies, $775 billion for fossil fuel extraction, fossil fuel exploration, fossil fuel refinement, somewhere between $775 billion and $1 trillion. G20 governments, the biggest 20 economic powers in the world, $444 billion 2 years ago. United States, subsidies for oil, natural gas, coal, $37.5 billion annually. $21 billion for production, exploration, tax, and royalty credits. First 100 years, the United States, $478 billion in subsidies for oil, natural gas, coal. All renewables, $67 billion. It's 7 to 1. It's 7 to 1. For every dollar we spent on trying to promote renewable energy, we spent $7 promoting oil, natural gas, and coal. And no one's talking about taking the subsidies off oil, natural gas, and coal. Jeb Bush did during the presidential campaign, said let's take them off everything. Intangible drilling costs, depletion allowances, domestic manufacturing deduction. It amounts to about $10 million a minute worldwide. It amounts to $600 million an hour. Iowa gets 30% of their electricity from wind. We get 8% of our electricity in Utah from renewable energy, 1% from solar. I don't see why Utah could not get 30% of our electrical energy needs met by solar. Do a Google on your laptop. Look up solar potential United States.
Mr. Speaker, point of order.
State your point.
The bill we're talking about renewable energy and the income tax credit, and we're veering off into some territory that may not be appropriate there.
Okay, Representative, most of what you're talking about is oil and gas, and we want to stay germane to the renewable energy and the bill. Thank you.
Thank you for the reminder, Mr. Speaker. This bill, justification for this bill, is centered around the fact that we don't need to subsidize solar anymore. I would beg to differ. And I speak in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion to the bill. Representative Hutchings.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to make a motion to amend.
A motion to amend is in order.
I'd like to move amendment number 2 in Representative Peterson's name. And I'd like to speak to that just briefly.
I have that before me. Motion is to move amendment number 2 under Representative Peterson's name. Proceed.
Thank you, sir. Representatives, this is actually an amendment that the good sponsor of the bill has agreed to put in based on some of my concerns, but also goes a little bit to what Representative Briscoe was just speaking about, in that we have done a good job of introducing electrical generation, photovoltaic generation into the state of Utah. The credits have worked. The industry has grown. The cost has come down. The efficiencies have gone up. The warranties have gone up. But we wanted to be careful because there are other technologies. And so we wanted to be careful not to take other new technologies, especially technologies like solar thermal and things of that nature that can have an immediate and definite impact on air quality on the Wasatch Front. It's been estimated that one single solar thermal panel can reduce emissions as much as taking one vehicle off the highway. So when we were talking about the credits and we were talking about solar, we wanted to make sure that we were careful to limit the bill's scope to the technologies that we believe had matured and leave it open to helping to introduce and develop and promote fledgling technologies that can still come into the marketplace and still have a major positive benefit. And so this amendment will do exactly that. It defines photovoltaic system for what it is and then uses that definition within the bill so that it leaves the credit open and available as other new, innovative, beneficial technologies come online. And that's my presentation, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion before us is a motion to amend. It's amendment number 2 under Representative Peterson's name. Let me go to the sponsor of the bill, Representative Jeremy Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment comes to us from several stakeholders who kind of had the same idea. We just integrate this definition into the bill. It's a friendly amendment. I support it.
Thank you. Further discussion to the motion to amend. Seeing no lights, I'll place the motion. All those in favor of amendment number 2 say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Rule that motion passes. The bill has been amended. Further discussion to the bill. Representative Noel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the sponsor of the bill answer a question?
Will sponsor yield to a question?
Yes.
Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I'm just interested on the credits, and we heard the good representative from Salt Lake mention all of the credits that go to the energy community, energy industry, and all across the nation, and how those credits are taking monies out of the pockets of the taxpayers or out of the government. And I just wanted to know, the motivation for this bill is not, okay, the credits that you're focusing on right now are credits that were put into place for what specific reason? What do you think those credits were for?
That was prior to my time here on the Hill, but I assume that there was some political interest in rooftop solar as a technology, and it was placed there as an incentive to help spur that technology along and develop.
That's right. One of those credits on solar was one of my income tax credits that I got the Solar Legislator of the Year. I don't tell that around too much down in southern Utah, but you might want to know about it up here. I did. I got awarded the Solar Person of the Year. Me and Howard Stevenson went to the meeting, and we actually had it presented to us because I think it was a good thing to get that industry going. It was tough, but are there still credits on solar energy development?
Yes, there are.
And what's the nature of those credits? How do they apply? Are they like
There are some commercial credits available. There's also some specific, and I can't go into too much detail on the others because I haven't immersed myself in them, but there are some other credits available geographically, specifically for southern Utah.
Yeah, and that's good. I appreciate that. That's what I wanted to bring up. The good representative from Salt Lake City mentions all these credits for the industry. And, you know, all credits are not the same. When you talk about a tax credit, let's say an investment tax credit, if I make an investment on a new tractor, and my tractor right now, a good tractor is $200,000, what I get is I get an investment tax credit. I can take that in 1 year, I can take it over 10 years, but it's part of me doing business. So I get that credit, I take that credit against the taxes that I owe, and in the meantime, we build new tractors at John Deere. And individuals that build those tractors get jobs, and those that make the steel get jobs. That's a reason for being in business. That's why you're in business. It's not the big gross amount that you get at the end of the year. I may make several $100,000 in money from my cows and from my hay, but there are expenses that go with that. I have labor expenses. I have expenses for fuel, and all those things come back into the economy. These credits specifically were to help get these industries started. I totally support that. But again, they have to be on a level par with other industries. We have a big solar project in southern Utah on state trust lands. It's going to affect about 8,000 acres of land down there. And it's fine. I'm okay with that. But at some point in time, the industry has got to mature enough that they can, in fact, move forward and exist on their own dime. If they invest in it, if they build their equipment, and they go through the tax code like everybody else, and there are going to be tax incentives, certainly you don't pay income taxes until the bottom line comes out, until you actually get to the profit line. That's when you pay the taxes. And believe me, if you've got a business that's a good business that's working, you will pay taxes. You'll pay employment taxes. You'll pay all kinds of taxes into the system. You'll pay taxes for unemployment compensation. There are just all kinds of taxes. So I just hope people understand that this is strictly a reduction in a tax that was put into place, and again, they were one of my taxes, to get this industry off the ground. It's gone to a point now that it's matured, and hopefully it can move forward. Hopefully we would have some land down there in the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument that we can actually put some solar panels, because we've only got about 3% private property, but right now you can't do that. You can't put anything down there. You can't put wind generators. Sorry, I had to get that in. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion. Representative Albrecht.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support this bill. I think the sponsor has done to a lot of work with the School Board Association, the Superintendents Association, the Utah Clean Energy, and the Utah Solar Energy Associations. And that's not an easy task to do. As a former utility executive, I was first against this bill, but Representative Peterson has done yeoman's work to get consent from all those folks, and this is something that's very important to the Utah Public Education Fund, and so I support this bill along with its amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion. Seeing no lights, we'll come back to sponsor for summation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The future of the solar industry in Utah is bright. The pun completely intended. The costs of the technology are going to continue to decrease, which means that the economics of the purchase decision that consumers will make will continue to be in favor of the industry. We have other technologies coming along line like battery storage and things which will just make it that much better moving forward. So I'm optimistic that this industry has a bright future regardless of the decision we're making today, and I appreciate your support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Voting will now be open on first substitute House Bill 23, income tax credit modifications. Seeing all present having voted, voting will now be closed. First substitute House Bill 23, having received 60 yes votes, 14 no votes, passes this body, be transmitted to the Senate for its consideration.